tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
After a historic Canadian election, we break down the key takeaways from British Columbia. Also, with the federal NDP's worst election in decades, how the party plans to push forward.
I don't think Canadians want to see a two-party system like they have in the States.
And remembrance, reflection, and finding answers.
We just came there to have fun and to build up community, but it happened. It was so sad.
What more we know about the victims and the alleged suspect of the Lapu-Lapu Day tragedy.
I think this individual is a mass murderer. I am committed to ensuring that British Columbians get the answers that they need.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Baneet Braich, and thanks for joining us. Nearly 24 hours after polls closed, CBC News is now projecting a Liberal minority government. While it's not the strong mandate the Liberals wanted, Ashley Burke has the latest on what's being called the biggest reversal of political fortunes in modern Canadian history.
After a long night and not much sleep, the Prime Minister arrived at his office, getting back to work, fresh off his election win that seemed unimaginable just a few months ago.
Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me?
Mark Carney tapped into the threat of Donald Trump to help dramatically reverse his party's fortunes.
I am going to begin with the value of humility.
He campaigned up until the last minute, asking for a strong mandate, but came up just shy of a majority.
After this most consequential election, let's put an end to the division and anger of the past.
Carney's calling for Canadians to unite to take on Trump.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bruce Fanjoy says the U.S. president changed the race. It helped him secure the second biggest victory for the Liberals.
It's a remarkable story, this race in Carleton.
500 volunteers helped him beat Pierre Poilievre, unseating the Conservative leader for the first time in 20 years.
They recognized that we faced this threat and focus on who is best able to lead Canada through this moment.
Liberal Stephen Guilbeault says just months ago he thought the party would lose and says a win is a win.
I think it is more complicated in a minority government, but it doesn't mean that things can't get done. And I think now, by the looks of it, we would have two dense partners.
Marcy Sirk says the Liberals could still come up with creative solutions to cobble together a majority by trying to get NDP members to join their party or work with other parties on a case-by-case basis.
We like majorities because they're neat and tidy, but this is a very strong minority by any account. So the Liberals absolutely can govern in this circumstance.
The Prime Minister's office says Carney spoke to Trump today, and the U.S. president congratulated him on his election, and that the two leaders agreed on the importance of working together as independent sovereign nations and agreed to meet in person in the near future. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Yes, the Liberals held on to power, but what really helped them get over the finish line? It was a tale of two cities, or rather of big and small cities, and Justin McElroy joins us now to dig a little deeper into this. Justin, how does the size of a city impact that result?
It's interesting, Baneet, because, of course, on Election Day, you're just looking at the entire country, riding by riding. You can't really dig into things quite as much. But when you look at where the Liberals had the most success, it was overwhelmingly in big cities. Not just big cities, but in the densest parts of those cities, where you see a lot of people. So here's a chart. Ridings with at least 3,000 people per square kilometre across the country. You can see the Liberals won 47 of those 52 electoral ridings from Vancouver to Montreal. The Conservatives only won one of those seats in York Centre. And then when you look at other places where demographically the Liberal Party did very well on election night, where at least 15 50% of the population are immigrants. They won 24 of those 31 ridings across the country. And then also when you look at ridings that had a high percentage of people that had at least some sort of post-secondary education. Again, if at least 80% of them did, you can see the Liberals won 22 out of those 26 seats. So in some places, that means they won the downtown areas of big cities like Vancouver and Toronto, and other areas it means that they won suburbs in places that were a little bit more well off. Overall, though, it shows you some of the places from coast to coast that the Liberals really dominated in and had that large margin of victory that allowed them to have that minority government and still have a plurality of seats over the Conservatives.
So that's where the Liberals did well, but what about the Conservatives?
It's interesting because they also had types of ridings that went for them as well, and it's not what you might necessarily think in some cases. When it came to income, the two parties were pretty evenly split for the richest and poorest ridings in terms of median income, but in other areas, they did very well. If you take a look at this chart, conversely, we talked about the Liberals doing well in dense areas. In ridings where at least 75% of people lived in detached homes, that's where the Conservatives did really well, winning 49 of 63 seats across the country. And certainly we saw that throughout the interior of the province and also Vancouver Island. You don't see a heck of a lot of townhomes or tall apartments there. Conservatives did well. In addition, another place that they did well is where you had a lot of young families. And the best proxy for this is ridings where more than 20% of the population is under the age of 15. That means you have a lot of people at the middle of their careers, less older folks as well, people having 2 or 3 kids there. The Conservatives did really well, winning 25 of 34 ridings across the country. So again, over the next few weeks and months, political scientists are going to start parsing through the data. Those are some of the information we found immediately. And the question for all the parties is they know now part of the reason they won and lost in the areas they did good or bad. The next question is how they're going to improve on that in the future.
All right, well, an interesting look at demographics. Thanks so much, Justin.
Thanks, Baneet.
All right, turning now to another BC riding with a surprise outcome. The federal Liberals have flipped the South Surrey White Rock riding. It's been a Conservative stronghold until now. As Saurabh Sandhu reports, winning candidate Ernie Claassen says the last provincial election was an important factor in his victory.
Big job. Yeah, big job. Yeah. And got big boots to fill.
Ernie Claassen showed up to work Tuesday morning, greeting supporters with a smile.
It's overwhelming, the feeling of gratitude.
In a keenly contested election, Claassen beat his Conservative rival Kerry Lynn Findlay by more than 3,000 votes. Findlay is a 3-time MP and represented South Surrey White Rock twice in 2019 and 2021.
I thought it was going to be closer than this, but in the back of my mind, I had put a goal in place that I wanted to win by at least 4% of the population, and I actually won by more than that.
Claassen, a White Rock City Councillor, says he was able to connect with voters on a number of issues important in his riding.
Housing affordability for seniors, of course, being a border community, the whole relationship with the United States. Those are the big, definitely overriding issues that I hope to bring to the attention of the federal government.
Claassen added that comments made by Findlay's husband and Conservative MLA Brent Chapman may have contributed to her defeat. Last year, just ahead of the provincial election, Chapman came under fire for his controversial comments about Muslims and mass shootings in the U.S. and Quebec. He held on to his Surrey South seat despite the criticism.
Some negative comments about him, and that may have played a role, and people were, not happy about that.
I'm not sure she did her work ahead of time to engage people.
I heard over and over again that she was not returning calls to people who just wanted some clarification.
Claassen says his priority is to work on substance abuse and mental health issues. CBC News reached out to Findlay for a comment but did not hear back by deadline. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Surrey.
We're learning more about the man charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder in that deadly ramming attack last Saturday. Vancouver Coastal Health says the suspect, Kaiji Adam Lowe, was under the care of a mental health team. CBC's Jason Proctor has more details.
we already knew that he'd had multiple healthcare interactions with the police in the lead up to this incident. What we found out today from the BC Ministry of Health was that he was actually under the care of a Vancouver Coastal Health mental health care team at the time, under the supervision of the Mental Health Act, which can allow for involuntary treatment. But what the ministry has said is, there's nothing to indicate that there was anything in his behavior or in his compliance with his mental health care regime at that point that would have justified involuntary treatment. So we've learned that today from the BC Ministry of Health.
And Jason, what other details have emerged here? What more have we learned overall?
Well, what we've learned in the past couple of days is really that he'd been grappling with the loss of his brother, Alexander, in the past year, who was killed in January 2024, in something that's ended up in resulting in a charge of murder against another individual. Also, he'd started a couple of GoFundMes to defray funeral costs. Also, one he claimed his mother was also suffering from stress and that his family was facing a lot of financial details. So these are just some small parts of things that have emerged about his life in the past little while. Of course, he's now charged with 8 counts of murder, and he makes an appearance at the end of May in Vancouver Provincial Court with regards to this tragedy.
A memorial for the victims of the vehicle ramming at Vancouver's Lapu Lapu Festival is growing, and so is community support. More than $1 million has been raised for victims so far. John Hernandez reports.
I came here just to throw my emotion and throw my tears down.
Chris Nadalo is seeing this memorial for the first time. He was here 3 days earlier at the Lapu Lapu Festival, walking just meters away from where the vehicle rammed through the crowd.
It was terrifying because people are screaming and they're asking for help. It was so sad for me. That's why I came back, and the past 2 nights I don't have sleep enough.
His return here, a chance to mourn and heal.
My birthday is turning tomorrow as well, so I was so lucky and thankful to God that He gave me another life. I know this is the first time that it happened, but it builds us stronger as a community.
11 people are dead following the horrific crash. On Tuesday, more details on the victims confirmed by their families and officials. Vancouverite Alexander Samper confirmed his mother, Glitza Maria Casedo, his father, Daniel Samper, and his sister, Glitza Daniela Samper, were killed. More than a dozen people are still in hospital.
Of the 7 people in critical condition, 2 are women, 5 are men, and they range in age from 29 to 66.
A 22-month-old is among the 3 people in serious condition. Online fundraisers have raised more than $1 million for victims and their families in 3 days. Meanwhile, BC's Premier vows an independent commission will look into keeping future public events safe. He says a public inquiry into the background of alleged attacker Kai G. Adam Lowe is also on the table.
I would like to do it today, but we are restricted in doing that because there is a significant risk of compromising the criminal investigation and prosecution. I think this individual is a mass murderer. I think he should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Lowe is charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder. Police say the investigation will be long. Still, officers expect to reopen this stretch of Fraser Street in the coming days, giving this memorial more space to grow. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Darius Madavi joins us now with a first look at the weather. Darius, how is it looking out there?
Well, we got more sunshine on the way, but first for the interior, a few showers and flurries clearing up. We've seen a few lightning strikes, a few still possible into the evening, but for the most part, that activity is confined over in Alberta. Here on the south coast, we are nice and clear, and that is going to continue over the next couple days, with the next rain not arriving until overnight Thursday for the North Island, and then working its way to us by Friday.
All right, thanks, Darius. We'll come check back in later.
Thank you.
Vancouver Canucks head coach Rick Tocchet has announced he will not be returning next season. In a release, he writes, "Family is a priority, and with my contract lapsing, this becomes the opportune time. Tocchet joined the club in 2023, and the Canucks failed to qualify for the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs, despite finishing first in their division last season. The NDP has lost 10 of its seats in British Columbia alone. A close look at the loss next. It was the worst results for the NDP in 30 years. A single-digit seat count costing the party its status and leader Jagmeet Singh his job. As Katie DeRosa reports, New Democrats in BC are reflecting on what it means for the party going forward.
Yeah, it was a tough night for our federal cousins.
Premier David Eby reflecting on the fate of the federal NDP, which was decimated across the country. Jagmeet Singh will resign as leader, but remained hopeful the party can rebuild.
But we are only defeated if we stop fighting.
Eby ruling himself out as a possible successor to Singh.
I don't have any interest in that job.
Securing just 7 seats, the NDP has lost official party status, something that hasn't happened since 1993. In BC, the party went from 13 down to 3 seats. Veteran New Democrats Jenny Kwan and Don Davies hanging on in Metro Vancouver, and Gord Johns keeping his seat in Courtenay Alberni on Vancouver Island. The NDP hemorrhaged support in this election to the Liberals and the Conservatives, resulting in longtime NDP incumbents Peter Julian, Alistair McGregor, and Laurel Collins losing their seats.
I don't think Canadians want to see a two-party system like they have in the States.
In Burnaby Centre, where Singh lost his seat, voters were not surprised.
Well, they're not really relevant anymore.
The NDP have lent the Liberals their vote for this election because they were afraid that Donald Trump was moving in on Canada.
One former NDP MP and MLA says while he's upset with the outcome,
devastating.
His party will still have influence as Mark Carney's Liberals have failed to secure a majority.
Even with just 7 seats, if it's a minority parliament, can the NDP play a significant role in what happens next?
With nearly half of the NDP's parliamentary seats still coming from BC, this province will play a big role in what happens next under a new leader. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
Elections Canada says this year's voter turnout was the highest since 2015, and millions of those votes went to the Conservative Party, many in Western Canada. Julia Wong has the reaction from Alberta, where voters are taking in another Liberal win.
At this rural Alberta diner, a Liberal government isn't what these voters ordered, but they hope it will consider their hopes for their province.
I want it to be listened to and that people here matter and what our livelihoods are staked on here. If they listen, treat us fairly, like treat Alberta fairly.
Well, it'd be nice if there was a greater degree of respect for our ownership of the resource and the development of the resource.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith agrees, calling for changes to energy policies.
These are kind of the baseline to reset the relationship with Alberta.
The Conservatives dominated the vote here, but the Liberals did capture 2 seats and won more than 28% of the popular vote. Still, Western alienation has been simmering for years. This election brought it again to the surface. Smith says her government won't put forward a referendum on Alberta leaving Canada.
I'm pleased to rise and move first reading of Bill 54.
But new legislation tabled Tuesday loosened the rules for one to happen.
They're going to be organizing over the next little while.
Polling suggests the vast majority of Albertans do not want to separate from Canada, but this man wants to put it on the ballot.
So just like Quebec's referendum in 1994 and 95, all that stuff is simply, or like Brexit. Brexit would be another good example, a successful example actually, of do you want to remain in Canada or do you want to leave?
During the election, former Reform Party leader Preston Manning said a vote for the Liberals is a vote for Western secession. In a statement Tuesday, Manning says talks are in the works to form next steps, including what he called independence-oriented proposals.
Prime Minister Mark Carney admits it's tough to be a Liberal in the prairies, but says he intends to govern for all Canadians. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
The clouds cleared this morning for a sunny day in White Rock at the pier. A very low tide this afternoon. It's a good time for beachcombing. Darius will have your full provincial forecast coming up.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox.
Are you ready to kickstart your summer, or do you know someone who is? CBC BC is offering a paid 7-week summer internship for a First Nations, Inuit, or Métis youth aged 18 to 35 in one of our bureau locations. The program's designed to inspire Indigenous storytellers, provide hands-on experience in the media industry, and contribute to meaningful storytelling. To apply, visit cbc.ca/BC.
Hey, I'm Rohith Joseph. Vibin' is the new show all about discovering great new songs and fresh artists from across BC and beyond. Stream Vibin' on CBC Listen.
Darius Madavi joins us again for another look at the weather. Darius, I know May is coming up here. What are we looking at for the weather?
Well, we've got a bit of a mixed bag, which is not atypical for the spring in BC. We've got high pressure building in for the next couple days, but not lasting too long, because then we're going to see this low, the influence of the low at least, sweep across, spreading some rain down the coast and potentially breaking into the interior as well. But it's a pretty weak front that's going to be moving through. So I think the big story is the temperatures over the next couple of days at least, because they are going to be coming up quite significantly. We see big jumps, especially in the sea to sky tomorrow. Squamish jumping up to 20, then 25 as we get into Thursday. Inland areas also very warm, reaching into the mid-20s easily once we get into Thursday. Temperatures do moderate quite significantly, especially inland for Friday, but still at or above seasonal for the vast majority of the south coast. If we take a look inland, those temperatures are also going to be climbing as we get into tomorrow and then Thursday. As we get into Friday, you'll notice those temperatures remaining high or even maybe getting a little bit warmer for Friday in the interior, even as they drop a little bit in the coast. Saturday, we'll likely see those moderate a little bit as well in the interior. At least that's what it looks like right now. If we look at our precipitation map for tomorrow, again, we start to see a couple dry days with lots of sunshine, especially in the south. As we get into Thursday, we start to see that rain make its way down at the coast, reaching the lower mainland likely by Friday, probably Friday afternoon, and just some really scattered showers that we're expecting to see here, and then maybe some showers break into the interior as well. Again, lots of sunshine tomorrow, not really too much to talk about. The island seeing a bit of cloud in the morning before it clears up pretty quickly after that. And here's our 5-day forecast. A couple days of really high inland temperatures, and then those showers return, and unsettled to maybe a couple showers on Saturday.
You know what? Looks like a good mix. All right, thanks, Darius.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, our free app, as well as YouTube. Have a great night.